ElkhartLake is to Champ Cars as Spa is to Formula One. Today the 4-mile track will test the best. Alex Zanardi seeking win number 7 of 98. Michael Andretti, who starts from his first pole for 3.5 years. Adrian Fernandez, winner of 2 races, including last time out. Jimmy Vasser, the 1996 champion and winner on 2 ovals this year. Greg Moore, just 4 points behind Vasser, battling for second in the series. And Brian Herter, who makes his 3rd front row start of the season. Welcome to Road America, ElkhartLake, Wisconsin. We're in the northern part of the Midwest of the United States at a tremendous racetrack, and it's a beautiful sunny day. Ben Edwards and Jeremy Shaw here with you to guide you through what should be a tremendous 50-lap event. It's round 14 of the FedEx Championship Series, and the cars there lined up already on the track, ready to set off once the word has been given. The pole sitter is Michael Andretti. It's his first pole in some 3.5 years. A tremendous performance in yesterday's qualifying. He is the top pole sitter in the series.
I mean, this feels almost as good as a race win for me personally, because I've been wanting to pole so bad, and it's been so long, and I just thank God that it finally came. It's just a perfect qualifying session for me. But now we got to follow it up with a win. You know, there's a lot on the line with the Marlboro money, and I got to still win somebody $1 million in the Texaco campaign that they have going. So, you know, we still got our work cut out for us, but I'm very happy right now.
Michael's tally up to 31 pole positions, but it was a great day yesterday for Team Rahal as well.
They've been strong most of the way through the season, either Bobby Rahal or Brian Herter. They've been towards the front of the field in almost all the races so far. They're still seeking their first victory, however. But young Brian Herter, there was race engineer Ray Lito, and Bobby Rahal, the veteran of this series. He'll be retiring at the end of the year, but he hopes to take a win. That was last week, though. Brian Herter out of the race of that first lap skirmish, and his teammate Bobby Rahal goes on to take a fine 3rd place finish.
So Brian Herter starts second, Bobby Rahal starts in 3rd place today. If we take a look at the points, neither of them featuring in the top 6. Zanardi still with a very healthy lead, but a good battle developing for 2nd place. Vasser heading that battle at the moment, but Fernandez and Pruitt joining in as a result of their 1-2 finish last time out in Mid-Ohio. Well, this track is different to Mid-Ohio, there's no doubt about that. It is called the Spa of the United States, a 14-corner, 4-mile racetrack that sees a great deal of elevation change. Let's hear what Michael Andretti has to say about it as he takes us for a lap.
All right, here we go. We're starting lap of Road America, going past start-finish line up to almost 200, well, probably about 200 miles per hour in 6th gear, braking hard at the 2 marker down to 4th gear. Very fast corner, about 140 miles per hour. Leads you down a hill, go from 4th to 5th. Then you brake hard back in the 3rd gear to about 120 through here. Leads you onto the back straightaway, very important corner. You go all the way up to top gear, which is 6th gear. Up to, again, around 200 miles per hour, then you brake very hard into the slowest corner, which is turn 5 coming up here. Brake at the 2 marker, you go down to 2nd gear. Leads you up a steep hill here, you go from 2nd to 3rd, then back down to 2nd to an off-camber corner, turn 6 here, it falls off a little bit, and leads into a very fast corner here, which you're in 4th gear through here, very fast. And then you go down a hill into another 2nd gear corner from 5th to 2nd. And then here leads you into the carousel, which is a very fast corner. You're in 4th gear through here, pulling close to 4.5 Gs through here. And then you upshift here to 5th gear, then 6th gear to the fastest corner on the track, which is a flat-out kink. Leads you on to the straightaway back here, which is not really straight, up to 200 and some miles per hour again. Hard braking at the 2 marker down to 2nd gear in the Canadian corner, which leads you up the hill into a very fast left-hander, which is in 4th gear under the bridge here, very quick. Leads you into the last corner, which is again a very important corner, which is 3rd gear, because it leads you onto this long straightaway, which takes you to the checkered flag. And very quick lap here of Road America.
And how about that for a great racetrack? It is so popular amongst the drivers. They love this place. It is such a challenge, and there's real overtaking possibilities here as well. Last time out in Mid-Ohio, however, things didn't go quite as cleanly and smoothly as kart officialdom really wanted. There were a number of incidents. Greg Moore was one of the ones to get hammered afterwards. He had this accident in the pit lane. He picked up a $5,000 fine and he was put on probation.
Brian Herter, he qualified third last week, but at the first corner incident with Dario Franchitti also took out another potential winner there in Jimmy Vasser. Probation is Brian Herter's penalty for this week and a few weeks thereafter.
The biggest fine of all, however, was saved up for the championship leader. Alex Zanardi hit PJ Jones, he hit JJ Leto, and then in this incident he hit Helio Castro Neves. They threw the book at him. He's got a $50,000 fine and he's been put on probation. Alex Zanardi starting quite a long way down on the grid this time. Let's take a look then at how they line up for today's race. Michael Andretti on that pole position, Brian Herter starting alongside him. Back on the second row, Bobby Rahal and Scott Pruitt, who makes it 4 Ford-powered cars on the top 2 rows.
Row 3 of the grid, Gilles de Ferran and Dario Franchitti. They were quick on Friday, both end up in the gravel traps though on Saturday. Row 4, Christian Fittipaldi, still looking for his first win, and Greg Moore.
Adrian Fernandez, the winner at Mid-Ohio, lines up alongside Alonso Jr., who's never won the race here. Next up, Alex Zanardi, our championship leader, and Tony Kanaan, who's the top rookie again.
13th on the grid, Andre Ribeiro, driving with a broken leg, suffered in a crash on Friday. Alongside him is Jimmy Vasser. On row 8 of the grid, Mark Blundell and Patrick Carpentier.
17th on the grid, Paul Tracy, who won here in '93, and JJ Leto on his first visit. Max Papis is 19th, the fastest of the Toyotas. Alongside him is Walter Sales.
21st on the grid, Mauricio Gugelmin. Myriad mechanical problems this weekend, and a young rookie, Helio Castro Neves. Behind them, Robbie Gordon and Michel Jourdain Jr., who was fastest for Peyton Coyne Racing this morning.
And then on the 13th row of the grid, we have Richie Hearn in the Swift and Alex Barron again in the Eagle chassis of All-American Racers. The last row sees Art Meyer in the Lola and PJ Jones alongside him. He's still in the Reynard chassis. That's how our 28 cars line up for this afternoon's race. I guess one of the major changes there, or surprises, is Zanardi so far down in 11th. Apparently Mark Blundell has already been in the pits. He's got a slight problem. The view from Michael Andretti's car, just behind the pace car. It's been such a long time since he's been in this spot, Jeremy. Way back to Long Beach in 1995. There, by the way, is the problem for Mark Blundell. Well, we said that they've had a tough weekend, Pac West, and it just seems to be going on that way.
Yeah, all sorts of mechanical problems for both of these guys. They're putting the engine cover back on there, I think, for Mark Blundell's Motorola car, and hopefully he'll get back in the fray. But, you know, Michael Andretti, he's a very interesting story. He always used to be known as the qualifier in this series. He's had 30 poles, that leads everybody, but he hasn't, as you said earlier on, he hasn't had a pole for 3.5 years. You know, he'd actually been concentrating purposefully on the race setup for several years, but this year, with the tyres being more consistent, that allows him to really use a very similar setup for qualifying and the race. So now he's able to concentrate more on that ultimate lap, and he's been close several times, but finally got it together yesterday afternoon. Great for Michael Andretti.
Good for Goodyear too. It's their first pole position of the year, and in fact a number of the Goodyear runners in much more competitive form this weekend. Gilles de Ferran, you ride on board with him. Now he is on 5th place on the grid, but he was on provisional pole on Friday. He went off in Saturday's qualifying, which denied him the chance, perhaps, of challenging Andretti for pole.
Very much so. He loves this racetrack, as do most of the drivers, but he's been quick here all weekend, but that one little slip, that put him in the gravel trap there, and end of his hopes of the pole.
Well, also on the Goodyear tyre, Christian Fittipaldi, he lines up in 7th place on the grid, and there's no doubt that the tyre that Goodyear provided this weekend for this track is in much better shape. The question is, will it last the distance in the race? They'll be doing some 16, 17 laps in each stint, and the question is whether the tyre will last. Brian Herter there right behind Michael Andretti, and Team Rahal in great shape. 2nd and 3rd places on the grid, remember. Scott Pruitt in 4th position. A little bit of news about Scott Pruitt for this weekend though, Jeremy. He's switched teams to Argero Wells. We'll talk about that a bit later. There's a look at the race details. 50 laps, and the pit window, as you can see there, between 16 and 18 laps.
Yeah, they really need to get to lap 16 or lap 17 before they make their first pit stop, make the next stop on lap 33 or 34, and that gives them another 16-lap run to the checkered flag. That's if there's no caution flags, of course. If there are some full course cautions, that'll train into strategy. But in order to make it to the finish on just 2 stops, they need to go at least to lap 16.
Well, they're lining up now and we're getting ready for the start of the race. Mark Blundell was seen in trouble with electronic problems, apparently. They're reporting from the pit lane. But we are getting ready now for the start of the Texaco Javelin 200 from Road America. Watch them at the back there. They're already clambering over the curb as they accelerate out of that last corner. And they come up to pass our position here on the main straight. And Michael Andretti gets his foot down and the green flag waves. And the race is on. Round 14 of the championship. Andretti in the black car trying to defend his position now. A little bit of jostling behind. Canaan was almost on the pit lane exit as they came through. Now, are they going to make it safely through the first corner? It looks pretty good. It's Andretti from Herta, from Rahal. Pruitt spun it, or has he? And there's problems. Unser's off. Unser's off. And
he was hit by Alex Zanardi from the back, Alonso Jr. And I think that was the Claire's car. I think of Patrick Carponche, who was on the grass also, and he tried to turn into the corner. But I reckon Unser was a hit from behind by Alex Zanardi.
Well, we can't see a great deal at the moment. Look at the dust cloud down there, and it's all gone wrong. Let's take a look from Gilles de Ferran. I think Pruitt got sideways. He got hit by de Ferran. Now, that was a separate incident, so de Ferran just touching the back of Pruitt's car, but behind, something else was going on. Look at Unser over there on the right. Zanardi, yeah, he gets locked up. Zanardi locks up under brakes. Well spotted that, Jeremy. He hits the back of Al Unser Jr.
And he, of course, already is on probation, Alex Zanardi. He had a book thrown at him last weekend, the largest fine. Here we are on board with Alex Zanardi. He goes to the outside of... God, dear. I mean, look how much he closed up there. He was 2 or 3 car lengths behind going into the braking zone, and I think he thought he was at the front of the field. Unfortunately, there's another 13, 14 cars in front of him. Crazy move by Alex Zanardi, once again.
Well, Al Unser Jr. absolutely sick about that. He's never won this race. It's been his nemesis, this racetrack, to a certain extent. Right back to his Can-Am days. It's never gone well for him at all. And, well, it's walking away again from an incident. There's no way he's got any chance of getting a result here this weekend. Patrick Carpentier is the other one there. Patrick started down in 16th position on the grid, and for the French-Canadian, it's obviously a torrid start to the race. There is on board with Alex Zanardi, and as you say, the CART officials are going to be taking a close look at that. Meanwhile, the green flag is still out. We have not gone full course yellow, which is good news in terms of keeping the race going. It's Andretti our leader, Herta second, Rahal third, de Ferran fourth, Franchitti in sixth. In 7th position is Alex Zanardi. In 8th place, Greg Moore, then Tony Kanaan and Adrian Fernandez, our top 10. Pruitt recovered from that initial incident, and he's actually in 11th position, so that's a pretty impressive recovery from Scott Pruitt.
As soon as there is Carpentier's car being dragged out of the way by the crane there, and I think Carpentier was really having his own accident as he came down the hill there. He strayed a couple of left side wheels onto the grass, and he was sideways irrespective of those two going off in front of him. But there is towards the back of the pack there, Alex Zanardi, he actually got going, actually moved up to 7th place. I'm not sure he managed that.
Well, he didn't actually slow down much. I mean, he hit the back of Unser's car, but it didn't actually slow him down very much. I don't think anybody got past him as a result, so Zanardi is following Christian Fittipaldi. Just ahead of them, you saw a quick flash of Dario Franchitti and Gilles de Ferran.
So looking back over our shoulder here, we can see the steward's room is actually behind us in our commentary box, and there's a lot of discussion going on there. The chief steward, Wally Dallenbach, we talked about at the beginning of the show, all those probations he handed out last week as we're on board with Christian Fittipaldi, but he was adamant in the drivers' meeting yesterday that there should not be a first lap accident, and there was, and clearly 2 drivers there were being very bold on the first lap.
That's right, so bad news indeed. Zanardi is likely to pick up some sort of penalty. Now, whether they'll give him a penalty in the race, we don't know. Let's hear what Roger Penske has to say about it.
So strong, and now it's kind of falling to pieces right here. Let's talk about what just happened.
It's a tough deal. Al said he just got run into in the back. I saw it on the monitor. Zanardi just ran into him and knocked him up in the air, and there was nothing they could do. So I hope that the stewards take a look at that and take the appropriate action.
I was going to say, he's already had he's on probation. He's already had a fine. What do you think needs to be done now?
I couldn't hear that. The car's going by.
What needs to be done now with Zanardi?
I think you got to leave that up to the officials, but hopefully they'll take a good look at it and take the proper action.
And I think Roger Penske wants to see something done.
Well, no surprise there, but we're going to have to wait and see what that action is likely to be, whether it'll be taken during the race or after the race. Well, we'll just have to wait and see what CART officials have to say. Andretti is our race leader. He had an advantage of some 4 seconds at the end of the first lap. Battle going on, Bobby Rahal versus Gilles de Ferran. And de Ferran, as you mentioned, Jeremy, loves this place, looks in great form here. I wonder how the mood is down in the Target Chip Ganassi pit. We've got Chip Ganassi ready, hopefully, to talk to us in a moment. moment. Let's go down to the pits and hear from him.
Monitor. We've just heard from Roger Penske, and he is accusing your driver Zanardi of creating that incident.
Well, I don't know if my driver created it. I think it was Alex came on. He said, "Look, everybody in front of me was locked up on the brakes, and so was he locked up on the brakes." Simple as that. I think it was a racing accident.
Do you feel like you're under a microscope because of the penalties from a week ago?
Well, I think there's been enough discussion about penalties the last couple of weeks, and I'll let the fans decide that.
Okay, that's the feeling here from the Ganassi pit.
Yeah, that's very interesting indeed. You know, Wally Dallenbach, I was talking to him during the week, the chief steward, and he said the problem with Zanardi is he's a very fast driver, there's no doubt about that, and when he's at the front of the pack he's fine, but when he's farther back in the field he can't really relate to that somehow, and that's when he begins to make mistakes. He didn't seem to realise there's another 12, 13 cars in front of him going down there into that second corner on the racetrack, and he just braked way too late for the circumstances. But look at the lead that Michael Andretti has pulled out.
That's incredible. Look at how big it is. Andretti leading by 5.5 seconds at the end of 3 laps. Herta in second place. Rahal in third. Then de Ferran, Franchitti, Fittipaldi. As look at this, Greg Moore goes past Alex Zanardi. Great move there from Greg Moore, and Moore moves himself up into 7th position. Behind them, Tony Kanaan and Adrian Fernandez. The action on board Alex Zanardi. He is definitely in trouble. He's being passed left, right and centre. There's Scott Pruitt going past the Italian. The car obviously not working very well. After that first lap incident where he hit the back of Alonso Jr., you can see the tyre marks on the nose, but there must be more damage than that.
Yeah, no other apparent damage to that car, but certainly he's in trouble. Tony Kanaan went past him, and now down the inside goes his teammate Jimmy Vasser, looks to it, and Zanardi lets him go. Clearly Zanardi with a problem. That is the other team cool green car right behind there of Paul Tracy.
Let's go down to the pits now. Hear from Al.
About the situation?
Well, I don't know anything. I got drilled from behind really, really hard. Somebody used me for brakes in the corner. It sent my back end up flying, and then I was in just a bunch of dirt from there on, and then Patrick came and hit my front end, and you know, that was enough damage to put us out.
How much of this did you anticipate, or were you concerned about starting in that 5th row kind of mid-pack?
I was concerned about it, but you know, with the recent stuff going on in the starts of the races, you know, I figured the guys have got to listen to Wally sometime or another, and lo and behold, they don't listen at all.
All right, that's Alonso Jr. He's on the way back to his pits, and clearly a lot of disappointment.
Well, that's true. As we watch the cars go across the line again, it's 5 laps completed now. Zanardi still stays out there. He doesn't bother to come into the pits and make adjustments. Obviously, he's hoping to hold out there some way or other. He's down to 12th position now. Jimmy Vasser moved ahead of him a little while ago. He's got Paul Tracy leading on him next. JJ Letter right behind him. Then it's Richie Hearn. Now, Richie Hearn's made up a lot of ground in this race, hasn't he?
He certainly has. He passed a couple of cars. That last lap he got past Andre Ribeiro, who of course we talked about earlier on. He's driving with a broken leg. He has a brace on his leg. And just a chip to, and there is Paul Tracy down the inside of Alex Zanardi, and Zanardi not fighting that position at all. So once again another slide back. That it puts now Zanardi back into 13th position.
Yeah, so very much struggling behind Richie Hearn. At the back of this group, Max Papis and Robbie Gordon are the next two on the road. Meanwhile, Andretti's lead last time around was up to 6.7 seconds.
And pulling away at least at a half a second a lap. But you know, at this early stage in the game, I'm surprised that Michael really is pushing so hard. He's only doing 1 minute 45.5, which is a good 5 seconds away from his qualifying time. But still, fuel is a concern at this rate. It always is. But let's come back to that. We'll get down to the pit lane and we'll have a word with Elio Castroneves.
Out of the race already. Let's talk about what happened to start with.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, they broke the header in the connect and the gearbox, and unfortunately, I mean, it was so early in the beginning. We had not even 2 laps, I mean, almost. And it started getting smoke in my car, and the pit was saying, no, you're running okay, the computer's okay. And I said, yeah, but it's a lot of smoke here inside the cockpit. No, keep going, until the moment that definitely was a broke.
In this case, the driver is definitely right. We want to talk about the racing action on the track. We already had some incidents. From your standpoint, where you were at, did it seem like everybody was racing fairly, or were some people jumping the gun?
Everybody on the first turn really behaved. Everybody behaved yourself. And on the second turn, I think one of the cars braked outside of the track and started spinning, and the other one started braking. I mean, it was a big pack over there. The track is really good. I mean, the track is clean. And
was it just racing action, or were people taking a risk?
I think people tried to gain position, but I mean, I know it's always so crowd over there, so they're going to be okay for next race.
Helio Castroneves out of the race.
We're riding on board with Gilles de Ferran at the moment. He rides in 4th position. Dario Franchitti is definitely applying plenty of pressure to the back of the Valvoline car, as we saw from that onboard camera.
And behind that second place car, Brian Herter, a long string of cars, and nobody really pushing too hard again at this stage in the race. But there is the 2 cars there of Gilles de Ferran and Dario Franchitti. But look at Andretti's lead. He has long gone down this back straight and into turn 12 at Canada Corner. He turns in, he's gone out of the corner, is Michael Andretti, and we're still looking back. Then finally is Brian Herter and his Team Rahal teammate Bobby Rahal.
Yeah, it's an incredible lead, isn't it, that he's built up. Nearly 8 seconds on the last lap. It looks like it's even more now, and he was over a second a lap faster than Brian Herter on that last lap. So incident aplenty in this race. Another of the drivers who's gone out of this one, we've seen Helio Castroneves a moment ago, was Patrick Carpentier. Now, he was involved in that early problem with Al Unser Jr. when he got hit by Alex Zanardi. We've got Carpentier down in the pit lane. Hopefully we'll get a chance to speak to him in just a moment. Meanwhile, the leaders across the line as Michael Andretti completes 7 laps.
You had a big hit there. Are you all right physically?
Yeah, I couldn't see where Unser was. Somebody spun him around at first, and then I came with 2 cars, and then Paul Tracy moved me to into the grass, and there was no way I could stop, and I just hit Unser afterward. It was a pretty big hit, but we're okay.
This first lap, it seems like almost every week now, recurring incidents. How concerned as a driver are you about this trend?
It's a shame, you know. I think we had a great car this morning, and I thought we were going to do good. Same for Unser, and the guys are really aggressive on the first lap, but we're all aggressive, you know. It's basically on yellows and first laps is the place we can pass some cars, and it's getting tight, and competition is tough, and everybody is trying to gain a position.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We just saw Alex Zanardi in the pits there. They changed the left rear. They put fuel in the car as well. Didn't change all the tyres, and maybe that's where they think the problem is.
Yeah, it could be maybe in that melee down there at turn 3, as they call it. He had some problems that picked up maybe some debris on maybe just a slight cut in the tyre. All it takes to upset the handling, maybe not even a full puncture, but they'll change that tyre and get him out on the fray and see what he can do. But of course, a long way back from the front of the field already, and he'd slipped back to 19th place before he even made that pit stop. So, but meanwhile, there is Michael Andretti, a Sunday afternoon drive for this young man.
Yeah, so far so good for Michael Andretti. Winner of 1 race this year so far. It was the season opener at Homestead. He did the same last season as well, but never managed to win another one. Look down there, though, at the tyres. Now, that's Zanardi's tyre, and that is obviously the flat spot that caused the problem. Now, it was interesting. I was talking to one of the engineers this morning, and they were saying that because of the high speeds run at this track, the tyre companies tend to build these tyres with a very thin layer of rubber. That was Andre Ribeiro's car there, by the way, that has just been overtaken by Zanardi, and there we see a view of Ribeiro. Just to come back to those tyres for a moment, though, a very thin layer of rubber on the tyre. If you do lock up, if you do flat spot, you can wear away that thin layer very quickly and be down to the carcass, and it looks as though that's exactly what had happened to Zanardi. Well, there, Andre Ribeiro, he's pulled over to the side of the road. The man driving with a broken leg here today. He actually fractured the fibula in his lower left leg. Well, obviously his race is not going to last long. Doesn't look as though that's the reason for having stopped. Looks mechanical to me. For the moment, Andretti here is race leader. Welcome back to Road America, Elkhart-Lake, where a full course caution because of Andre Ribeiro's car has brought the pace car out, and it has brought a few cars into the pits. Notably, our race leader decided to come in. Now, Brian Herter and Bobby Rahal decided not to come in. Michael Andretti has come into the pits to take on his first load of fuel. Interesting strategies going on here, Jeremy. We knew that the furthest they could go was 16, 17 laps, and they got to about half that. So some have decided to stop and some haven't.
Yeah, the vast majority did stop. But my reckoning, the only people that didn't stop were both Team Rahal cars, which to me is a little bit surprising. And also JJ Leto farther back down the field, and Alex Zanardi, of course, had already stopped. But I think most everybody else, Greg Moore was the final one as well. Of course, he'll be up in 3rd place now. But very interesting indeed. All these other guys, they will have to make 2 more pit stops in any case. And the Team Rahal plus Greg Moore and JJ Leto will hoping that they can get to the end also just on 2 pit stops.
So there we are. This is going to throw everything up in the air completely. Michael Andretti, who's been the dominant force in the early laps here, but now on a different strategy to Brian Herter and Bobby Rahal, who have proved that they are fast here all weekend. Now, I wonder if they know that their tyres are likely to last all the way to the 17 the decision. Alex Zanardi, he did not come in then. He'd already made one pit stop, of course, to put fuel in, and so he decided not to come in then as well.
Yeah, he was at the back of the pack already. He'll move up a few places when some of the guys at the back came in, but he didn't make up many places at all, so he's still a long way toward the back of this field. But it's certainly going to be very interesting now. Of course, the two Team Rahal cars now, of course, have the advantage of track position. They can set the pace. And while some of the other guys might have fresh tyres, will they be able to take advantage of it?
So here comes Brian Herter, ready to take the green flag. We're about to get this race underway. Herter accelerates a little bit before the corner and then accelerates hard as he comes out of turn number 14, and the green flag will greet them as they crest the rise to the top of the hill and go for it once again. Watch out for Bobby, though. He's got a good run on his teammate Brian, and Brian goes to the inside. Bobby goes to the outside. He's had a tremendous run out of that last corner, and if there's one rule between these two, it's that they don't take each other off, and Brian Herter lets Bobby go through without too much of a battle. He's got to watch out for Greg Moore now, who is also all over the back of him, with JJ Leto there now, up into 4th place, courtesy of not coming into the pits. But let me tell you that Michael Andretti is in 5th place. He's got a full tank of fuel. His car will be heavy. He's got a good set of tyres on, though. Look at this. Greg Moore trying to go for 2nd. Brian Herter, oh no! Brian, you so nearly took out your team boss. He braked late to stop Greg coming past him, and he so nearly took Bobby off with him.
Yeah, he threw the car sideways to not hit Bobby Rahal there, and he was thinking of his teammate. He knew he was going to be... Oh, goodness, that's Alex Barron in the Eagle Toyota. What happened there? I have no idea. The yellow flags must have been out. Whether Alex had some sort of mechanical problem coming down there, it's tough to say, but certainly he lands up there. Look at that, right on top of the car. Of Brian Herter, but Herter, he was under pressure there from Greg Moore. He tried to brake as late as he could, and clearly he left his braking too late, and at the last minute he knew he was going to hit his teammate Bobby Rahal. Hitting anybody is not good news, and particularly his team leader Bobby Rahal, so he just threw the car sideways. He just clipped Rahal, but luckily not nearly as hard as he would have done if he'd have just slammed into the back of him on all 4 wheels pointing in a straight way. So a shame for Herter, a mistake by Herter there for sure, bad mistake really. He was under pressure from Greg Moore.
Well, let's take a look. Apparently the driver is okay. We could see him nodding around. We've heard a good report. Now, there's Herter. He so nearly hits the back of Rahal. As you say, chucks it out of the way. But watch behind, Jeremy. What is going on? That Alex Barron ended up launching himself down. Can we spot it in the bottom of the picture here? We see a few cars heading down the hill. We see PJ go through. Well, we don't see what started that. He just suddenly launched himself. Those safety workers are lucky as well, because of course they were attending to Brian Herter.
Yeah, and I look at that again on the replay, and you know, you can see the way Moore and Herter closed off on Bobby Rahal. Bobby was very conservative down there in turn 5. I think he took his young teammate there by surprise, and there's Herter looking around him here, and look at him. You could just see him brace himself there. He sees Barron coming down towards him, and the corner workers, well, the kart safety team there, they luckily were just paying enough attention to their left there to look up and see Alex Barron flying down towards him.
Yeah, frightening accident indeed. Look at this, that's the moment. He braced himself. Natural thing to put his hands up. Of course, it's probably the worst thing he can do, but...
yeah, he didn't put him on top of his helmet. That wouldn't have been smarter. He just put him up into his chin. I think mainly to get his hands away from the steering wheel. There's not too many places you can put your hands in that situation. There's not much room there, of course. There is Alex Barron out of the car, out of the Eagle. A shame. That Eagle's been running awfully well for the first couple of races. It made its debut just last week at Mid-Ohio, and it'd been running pretty well this weekend as well, fitted with that new Toyota RV8D engine. But I don't know what happened there. Maybe he just lost it under braking there. Cold tyres, of course, having just coming out of the pits, and you're braking there from over 200 miles an hour into that tight second gear left-hander at turn 5.
Now they've got the problem of trying to get the thing off the car of Brian Herter. Of course, is still stuck down underneath that car, and can't be a particularly pleasant experience to have a car sitting on top of you. It's great to hear that he's not hurt, but they've now got to try and get that off without doing any further damage either to him or, well, not really much about the car. I think they're pretty badly damaged already. They've also got a truck in there that perhaps they can lift it off. I think that's probably a more sensible idea. And, well, we are certainly seeing plenty of incident again here, aren't we? Bobby Rahal is now up front. Well, he's been into the pits, actually. Bobby has made his stop now. He's decided to take advantage of this yellow to make his pit stop. That means that Greg Moore is now our race leader, who has not decided to come into the pits yet. That's an interesting move. Andretti's moved up to second. Again, here we go. Brian braking late.
Yeah, but look at his car in relation to the others there. And he's certainly braking late, but Bobby is being pretty conservative there. And Greg Moore got onto the brakes a little bit earlier than Herter. Yeah, Herter certainly braked too late there, and you could see him turn the car left to try and avoid his teammate and then take the consequences after that. And look at Brian Herter there bracing himself as he sees Barron's car coming down at goodness knows what speed, straight at him.
Yeah, I mean, that must have been one of the most frightening experiences of his racing career, I should think. It's one thing when you're having a shunt, and to a certain extent you're just hoping that it all ends peacefully, as Michael Andretti said last week. But when you see someone heading straight towards your car and there's nothing you can do about it, that really is a nasty situation. There, they lift the car away. Brian is okay, that's the good news, and this race will continue. Is race leader after 12 laps. Michael Andretti in second. Gualter Salles is up in third as a result of not being into the pits at all. But this is another replay, Jeremy, of the incident that's caused the yellow here.
Yeah, and certainly as it came down into the braking area, Herter was under pressure from Greg Moore. So you can see there in second place, he knew he was going to hit the back of Bobby Rahal. Extremely bad news that would be. So he gets hard on the brakes. Actually, you can see him turn the car there hard left. He spins off there. I don't know, he just catches the left front wheel there on the barrier, but he might have got away with that. There might not have been too much damage, but a few seconds later on, well, look at all these cars just streaming past here. A whole bunch of cars comes through. At the back of the fact, there's a little bit of dicing going on there with Richie Hearn, I think, and Robbie Gordon. But right at the back, there is PJ Jones, and behind him, on the right-hand side of the picture, Alex Barron. Look at those safety guys diving for cover there.
Yeah, that's one of the scariest aspects of the whole accident, the fact that the safety guys were charging out of the way. You know, PJ and Alex must have been coming down pretty much together, looking at the timing there of where PJ turned in and when Alex arrived on the grass. They must have been pretty close together as they came down that hill.
Yeah.
I just hope that nothing happened between those two teammates that actually set that up.
That's true, because before they come into the pits, certainly the Eagle was ahead of the Reynard, and there is a huge round of applause there for Brian Herter as he clambers finally out of that car once they got Barron's car out of the way. But after those pit stops, the two All-American race guys changed positions. So Barron was behind Jones as they'd come out of the pits, and whether he got tangled up a little bit with PJ trying to make a move down there, it's tough to say. But those two, they've been battling hard. Of course, totally different chassis, and actually different engines this week, because Alex Barron in the Eagle had the advantage of the new Toyota engine, the RV8D, which has been showing pretty good form the last couple of races, and PJ saddled with the older RV8C, which is probably a good 40 or 50 horsepower down on the newer motor.
It looks as though we're going to have another lap before they go green. It's Greg Moore, race leader, from Michael Andretti, Gualter Salles. Dario Franchitti up to fourth, ahead of De Ferran, Fernandez, Canaan, Pruitt, Vassar and Zanardi in 10th. So there's Bobby Rahal, and of course now having made that stop, he's actually come back into the pits again. Now this is interesting. What is going on for Bobby? Do you think that there was a bit more in that contact?
Well, I think he's at the back of the pack already. By making that pit stop, he kind of chickened out on his strategy there, and he came in to make that pit stop. That put him all the way to the back of the pack. And even on a couple of laps of caution here, you're going to use a couple of gallons of fuel. So he came in there, nothing to lose, just top it up, that last little couple of gallons in the car. That'll enable him to do another lap later on in this race. And we've got 13 laps in the books now, and it's not inconceivably he can get through on just one more pit stop. So we'll see. It's going to be a tough order. I think he'll need another caution or two in order for that strategy to be able to pay off. But back at the front of the field, of course, Greg Moore and Gualter Salles in third place in the paint and coin car have yet to make their first pit stops.
Yes, but presumably they're going to push it right up to the limit, to lap 16 or lap 17. In fact, it'll be a bit more than that because of the number of yellows we've had.
Yeah, well, there should be at least 17 and possibly 18, and that'll put them in great shape for the end of this race. They will definitely be able to go from there to the end on one just one more pit stop. And a pretty good strategy, certainly by Peyton Coyne Racing there. They've got nothing to lose. They started at the back of the pack. Walter Salas, he's only made a handful of starts this year, really sitting in for Dennis Vitolo, who had a 15-race package this year with SmithKline Beecham. And Walter, he doesn't drive regularly. He has no testing at all. He did a very good job, really, to qualify in 20th place. And incidentally, he was about a half a second quicker than Mauricio Gugelmin's pole from last year. So great effort by Walter Salas. And he was fast in the warm-up. He and his teammate Michel Jourdain Jr. were first and second in a warm-up this morning. So those cars working very well. Good strategy by Peyton Coyne.
The overhead view as the cars make their way round on this final lap of full course yellow before they go green again. They will start to pick the pace up in a moment. 13, nearly 14 laps have been completed out of the 50 here at Road America, and wow, we've seen quite a lot of incident already. Let's just quickly run through what's happened. At the start of the race, we saw a couple of separate incidents where Pruitt got hit by De Ferran, got back on track, and Pruitt is still in this race. He's in 8th position, as you can see from the classification. But behind him, Zanardi hit the back of Alonso Jr. Zanardi survived it, but had problems, had to make a pit stop. Unser went out, Carpentier went out in that same incident. We've also seen other problems. You can see the cars out. Helio Castroneves had a header brake. Ribeiro out of the race. But then the accident that's caused this yellow, Brian Herta spinning, nearly hitting the back of his teammate, and then Alex Barron appearing out of nowhere and arriving on top of Brian Herta's car. Those are all the incidents we've seen so far in this race. Let's hope it sort of calms down and settles a bit now as we get ready for the green flag. Are you ready for Greg Moore to put the hammer down? Here he goes. On board Michael Andretti in second place. Great restart from Greg Moore there. Michael got left behind a little bit, no doubt about that. An excellent restart from the Canadian as he crosses the line to finish lap 14. And in fact, Walter Salas has had a great restart. Look at Salas in third position, attacking Michael Andretti. He drove one at Long Beach earlier this year, remember? And now he's putting the pressure on, decides against it, settles back into third.
Yeah, smart young man. He qualified magnificently at Long Beach, as you said, on the second run of the grid. But there, on down the inside goes Dario Franchitti to take away third place from Walter Salas.
Yes, he's done it. Dario Franchitti got past there. So Franchitti is up into third, and it looks as though De Ferran was also lining up to get past Walter Salas. So maybe there's going to be a change for fourth position. But Salas won't just give up the battle here. He has allowed a couple of cars to go through. Fernandez has gone past. Behind there's a big gaggle of cars. Zanardi's in the middle of all that, and Vassar is there too as well. In fact, Vassar, I think, is the first of the two target cars.
Salas, of course, is towards the end of a stint of fuel. He's low on fuel, but his tyres are pretty well worn. And the other guys, of course, taking advantage of their fresh rubber to make a move earlier in this stint.
So all fun and games here as Adrian Fernandez, the winner from Mid-Ohio last time out. He's now featuring up there in 6th position, so he's gained a fair bit of ground. Qualified in 9th place. A very, very consistent season from the Mexican as we see PJ Jones has gone off. PJ Jones, we don't know if he was involved earlier with Alex Barron, but whatever. Here, PJ Jones has gone off into one of the gravel traps. Now they will try and sort that out with one of the cranes. You can see it coming down. They should be able to clear that under just a local yellow, and hopefully, Jeremy, it'll stay green flag racing. It'll be a shame to get another full course caution.
Yes, indeed, and certainly local yellow flags will be out down there at that corner. I think it's in turn 8, but let's get down the pits with Brian Herta.
What happened that got you in trouble to start with?
Well, you know, I think my motor was going off. It was a little soft, and it just didn't seem to have any juice down the straight. Bobby got by me, and Greg had a run. So I tried to brake really late to keep Greg back, and I ended up touching Bobby and spun me around. I got stuck there, and I don't know what happened to cause Barron to go off, but he obviously did, and then I saw him.
You actually saw it coming. We could see your head ducking down.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I could do at that point. I was a sit and duck, but, you know, I'm just really thankful, thank God, that, you know, the car went up instead of straight, and, you know, I guess that was my lucky day in a way.
It didn't hit you at all. It literally went right over the top of it.
It actually hit my hands, but, you know, not too bad, so, you know, it could have been a lot worse.
But you have to be so frustrated considering how well you'd qualified.
Yeah, I'm more pissed off than frustrated right now.
Simple answer.
Well, back to the racing, and Greg Moore, race leader, under attack from Michael Andretti and Dario Franchitti. We've got Mercedes-Benz Power leading, Ford in second, Honda in third, and a great challenge on the cards. Remember, Greg Moore has another couple, 2-3 laps before he has to come into the pits, whereas the two behind him have already made their first pit stop. But Greg could have the advantage. He could have the last laugh because he'll only have to make one more stop after this one.
And he should be able to run pretty well flat out towards the end of the race as well. So he'll be able to take advantage of where he is now, trying to hold up Michael Andretti a little bit. When he comes in to make his pit stop, he will fall to the back of the pack, but with a bit of luck, he will have some clear track ahead of him, and he'll be able to make a good time on the race leaders before they have to make their stop in another, 8 or 9 laps after that. So there's a lot of strategy to be played out this afternoon, Ben. It's going to be a really interesting day here at Elkhart-Lake.
Yes, that's right. Moore's not really had a result here to talk of in the past. Last year, he went off trying to pass Ray Hall for 7th position, and as they come across the line, look at the run that Michael's got on him. He's really fast up to the straight, and surely there Michael's got a great chance to overtake. Gets down the inside, makes it look very easy, and Moore definitely lost some speed. Look how close Franchitti is to the back of the player's car now. Is he going to make a move? Franchitti perhaps being a little more cautious here, as he still knows they're in the early stages of this race. Michael Andretti just blew past Greg Moore there, and now perhaps with a chance to establish a lead again, the sort of lead that he was enjoying before our first full course yellow. Watch Dario here. Dario Franchitti, is he going to have a go into turn 5? No, has a look, but settles behind him again.
Thought about it, but very late on the brakes there, downhill into turn 5 was Greg Moore, and he's certainly not able to keep the pace of the race leader at this point in the proceedings, but he wants to try and stretch that field. If he can get another couple of laps out of it, he won't be too concerned at this stage. It's a long way to go. He knows that everybody else has to make a couple more pit stops in any case, and there is Dario Franchitti using up all the road and more, isn't he, up through turn 8 there?
Yeah, but it looked under control, just a little bit of curb he was using as they come through the carousel now. This is a difficult corner to follow another car because it's so long, you lose the downforce on the car. But they're running in fairly low downforce trim at this racetrack anyway, something like 1,000 to 1,500 pounds less downforce here than they would be running at a street track where they pile the wing on. Look at this, still the battle for second going on here.
Yeah, and as you say, that lack of downforce makes these cars very, very light under braking as well. They don't have that downforce to help them slow the cars down for the corners. Makes them very skidderish indeed, and we've seen a lot of cars off in the gravel tracks. We saw Alex Barron go off, and PJ Jones, of course, already in this race, and a couple more problems down the field in some traffic. But they're tough cars to drive. They've got 900 horsepower and not a lot of downforce.
No, that's right, and as you say, braking becomes a particularly tricky aspect of it all. Michael Andretti's lead up to 1.5 seconds at the end of just one lap of getting past Greg Moore, with Franchitti settling there in third position. Moore seems to have got himself going again. Now, whether it was just a slight miscue or slight flutter from the engine on that last lap, difficult to say. Perhaps Michael just had the best run up the straight, and it's settled down now with Moore second, Franchitti third, to Ferran fourth, Fernandez up to fifth, then Canard in sixth, Alex Zanardi is seventh, Scott Pruitt eighth, Paul Tracy in ninth place, and Christian Fittipaldi is in 10th position. Well, I guess...
Walter Salas took the opportunity that time around to come into the pits. 17 laps on the board. I would think we'll probably see Greg Moore in this time around. If he reckoned if he could get to lap 18, that'd be really good news for Greg Moore. He can pretty much run that fuel mixture full rich, get maximum power out of that engine, and hopefully run to the finish here with just one more pit stop. And that could put him in extremely good shape at the end of the day. It'll be a while though before he shows himself back up towards the front of the pack. There's going to be a lot of shuffling to come in these next few laps.
Yes, that's right, and it will depend to a certain extent on how many more incidents and offs that we see. We've seen a good bunch of them throughout the weekend, lots of visits to the gravel track. That latest one of PJ Jones, thankfully not causing a full course caution. And here we go, Franchitti again having a little think about it, but not really too bothered.
No, and Greg Moore looking very comfy, looks very good on the brakes, doesn't he? Really good, able to brake late and very stable, that car looks. They worked very hard on the car, setting up for the race. They're not too worried about qualifying. And here is Greg Moore, and does he come into the pits? Yes, he did. He tries to wait till the last possible moment to show his hand. Not this really relevant to the other guys, they're not going to come in any case. But here he comes now, Greg Moore, through this chicane at the pit entrance, and now down to the 60-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Yes, the 60-mile-an-hour limit doesn't start until the first pit garage, or the first pit box, I should say. They have to come through that coned area. They can come through there flat out, but if they knock a cone down, then it is a penalty. They have to do a drive-through through the pits once again. That is the penalty for knocking a cone down. So you can't charge in too quickly. And this is a critical stop for the Forsyth crew. Let's see just how long it takes. This is a full tank of fuel that's going on board. And this time he drives away, or does he? There's a problem. There's a problem getting it into gear. And can he get it into gear? No, he can't. Eventually, no, it still doesn't want to go in. What is going on for Greg Moore? Can you believe it? It still won't engage. And now they're being told they've got to bring the car back to try and get this car out. Oh, Greg Moore, we saw the problem he had. He was leading in mid-Ohio 2 weeks ago, or last week rather, and he had that incident in the pits where he hit the Penske that was stopped in front of him, and now there's some other problem which is denying him the chance to get out.
Something in the gear mechanism. They cannot select first gear. You can hear the engine revving away there. He just can't select any gears by the looks of it. It's a sequential shift, of course. You pull it back for first gear, you pull it back for each subsequent gear, and I'm sure he's tugging and pushing on that lever, and he can't find anything. Although finally he finds a gear, but a lot of revs and no real drive there, so it looks like a drivetrain problem there. And finally the engine is dead. He cuts it off, and looks like the end of Greg Moore's day. What a tragedy for this young man.
Oh, it's just not going for him at all at the moment. I mean, he's driven superbly so far here today. He drove well at mid-Ohio until he made that rash mistake in the pit lane, which he's rued ever since. But Moore is out of the Road America event. Alex Zanardi, who remarkably has found himself up into 5th position now. He started 11th, currently 5th. That hardly tells the story. Of course, he hit the back of Alonso Jr. on the opening lap of this race. He stayed up near the front in the top 10, then he dropped way down to about 14th, 15th place. Then he made a pit stop. He's on a different pit stop strategy to the others, and they only seem to change the one tyre on that pit stop, which is an interesting point. But since then, he's putting in some remarkable lap times.
Certainly is, and of course he only stopped actually because of that accident where one of the cars went off the road. I'm not sure who was the first into when Ribeiro went off the road and stopped at the side of the track. The leaders actually came only a couple of laps after Alex Zanardi, so pretty similar fuel strategies that they will be able to run. They are back on board now with the race leader Michael Andretti, and right behind him is Dario Franchitti, who was closed right up in the last couple of laps onto the tail of Michael Andretti. And unlike in that first stint of the race where Michael Andretti was able to pull away into the distance, not so this time, Ben.
No, there's definitely a race of it up front now between Andretti and Franchitti. Franchitti in the 1:43s, as was Alex Zanardi last time around. Everyone else in the 1:44s or higher. And now we should get a chance to see as we go across the line. There goes Andretti. There is Franchitti. There is the gap between the two of them, much closer than it was. Gilles de Ferran a little further back in the distance in 3rd place. He's some 3 seconds behind Michael Andretti. Then it's Adrian Fernandez in 4th place. Alex Zanardi 5th. Tony Kanan's running in an excellent 6th place. The rookie doing a fine job again. Scott Pruitt 7th. Paul Tracy 8th. Christian Fittipaldi in 9th. And then Jimmy Vasser in 10th position. But Franchitti is the one to watch at the moment, applying the pressure to Michael Andretti.
Yeah, and back a little bit, there is Adrian Fernandez under pressure from Alex Zanardi. That is a battle for 4th and 5th positions. Right ahead of them is Gilles de Ferran going up the Toyota Bridge and turn left there into turn 6. Here, though, the battle for 4th place, and Alex Zanardi, he's the talk of the town, that's for sure. He had that huge fine thrown at him last weekend after those 3 on-track incidents with PJ Jones, JJ Leto, and Helio Castro Neves, and yet more controversy, let's say, with that incident on the first lap today with Alonso Jr., but he's still out on the racetrack. He's charging very hard, and that's interesting listening to him go there through the carousel. You can hear they're easing off the throttle there halfway through that very quick corner, and here, that's the kink. They call it a kink. I can't. There's a corner in my book, Ben.
Yeah, don't think he was quite flat, was he? It sounded like there was just a little breathe on the throttle through there. In race conditions, that's no great surprise. They do take that corner without lifting in qualifying, but again, only when the car's perfectly set up and everything is working in their favour. 3 places around this circuit, as you mentioned earlier, that they're travelling at over 200 miles an hour, and then under very heavy braking for a tight corner at the end of it. There is Tony Kanaan running in 6th position, so he's a little way behind the battle between Fernandez and Zanardi at the moment, but nonetheless doing a great job. First time here, and he hadn't even tested before the teams came this weekend.
Never even seen the place before this weekend. Tremendous effort by Tony Kanaan, and pulling away from a good battle behind him with Scott Pruitt, Paul Tracy and Christian Fittipaldi, and then Jimmy Vasser, Richie Hearn and Mauricio Gougemin and Mark Blundell, all pretty much nose to tail. A great battle, but we're back on board with Zanardi, and the gap from Zanardi back to Kanaan is a little bit less than 5 seconds, but that's That's a great effort by Tony Kanaan, for sure.
Well, we've seen one of the front runners go out of this race, Greg Moore. We've got a chance to hear from him.
We watched you in anguish there try to get it going, but the thing that I can't help but wonder is about this whole championship scenario and the hopes that you were keeping alive, and now time's starting to run out. So how do you play it?
Well, I mean, we just got to wait and see what happens in this race today, but there's still a few more races to go, and I'm not concerned about the championship. All I want to do is win a couple more races. And Mid-Ohio last weekend, we let one slip through our fingers, and I think we had a good plan going into this race, so I'm just real disappointed.
You were the only team that looked like you had a chance to make this a two-stop day, and that was going to be so big later on, I would gather.
It sure was, and that was our plan. And we knew we'd run out that first tank, and no matter what, yellows or no yellows, and it just kind of everything went according to plan. It just right there at the end, when I tried to leave, race is over.
Thank you.
Well, a real disappointing day for Greg Moore. He lies down in third place in the championship coming into this race. He was only 4 points behind Jimmy Vasser, had a great chance of getting into a clear second place in the series, but more importantly, as he said, of taking the win, and he would desperately love to take another victory. Got a bit of a lean patch in the mid part of the season. On board now, though, with Bobby Rahal. Now remember, Bobby is on a completely different strategy, really, to everyone else. He played it one way, then played it the other. They seem to sort of fall halfway between, didn't they, Jeremy? Now he finds himself down in 17th position, but obviously still going quickly.
Yeah, well, not really. He's actually making no progress whatsoever. He's just in a train of cars there and not making any impression at all on the car in front of him, which is JJ Leto. And right behind him, in actual fact, is Aunt Maya in the loader, the yellow car. We just want a very quick glimpse of it. Perhaps we'll see a glimpse of it there. There is Aunt Maya, and he is keeping pace with Bobby Rahal, who of course qualified third fastest for this race, and seems to have a pretty good car.
Well, apparently, yes, they can see a left rear wing end plate flapping in the breeze there. That won't help matters, but it shouldn't make too much difference. It will disrupt the airflow, though, over that rear wing, and that could make a bit of difference.
It'll make a little bit of difference, certainly. That almost certainly sustained when Brian Herder spun into him down at this very point on the racetrack here, turn 5, and you can see Rahal there applying the power, coming out of the corner, a little bit of opposite lock and uphill, and again into turn 6, and really making no impression at all on JJ Leto. They're running very similar lap times, these guys, and Rahal running back in 17th place.
It's not turning out too well for Team Rahal. They started with both cars up front. They've got one car left, and he's quite a long way towards the back now. Andretti, race leader after 25 laps of this race have been completed. Franchitti in second place, Teferin in third, Fernandez fourth, Zanardi fifth, but he's in the pits. Alex Zanardi comes into the pit lane. Now remember, he did stop a little earlier than the other front runners, and now he has to make his stop a lap earlier. We reckon that the front runners, the leaders, Michael Andretti, etc., will have to come in next time around. So the Target Chip Ganassi team go to work. The fuel going on board, it is a full load of fuel that has to go on board. He gets a gear okay, unlike Greg Moore, and he gets away cleanly. So Zanardi makes a successful second pit stop there. He will have to make one more pit stop to make it through the rest of this race. He ran a bit wide there through turn number 1 on those cold tyres, but he is still up there.
Yeah, and still in contention for this race, despite what's happening. He missed the apex there, of course, in turn 3 also, so he's running hard. And there, on the side of the road, in the Exeter turn 1, the Visteon Reynard Ford Cosworth of Scott Pruitt. He'd been running so well there in 7th place, and apparent engine problems for the car number 20.
We mentioned him earlier, Jeremy, at the beginning of the broadcast. He announced yesterday that he's switching teams next year. He's leaving Pat Patrick and going to the Archero Wells team, the team that has Toyota power. Interesting switch there.
Very interesting indeed. Certainly Toyota has made big strides this year. Max Pappi's right now actually running in 13th place and Robbie Gordon in 14th. That's the two Archero Wells cars at the moment. Robbie Gordon will be giving up that seat next year to Scott Pruitt, who really is one of the older drivers in the field. And there is the race leader, Michael Andretti, into the pit lane.
Yes, so Michael is in, but is Dario Franchitti in?
No,
he's not. He's decided to do another lap. Is that because he's getting better mileage from the Honda? We'll have to wait and see. Let's listen up to the radio as well. Ed Nathman on the radio to Michael Andretti. Hopefully we should get a chance to hear this as he makes his pit stop.
Reset the fuel meter, Michael.
Going again and rejoins the track, having having made his stop. 60 miles an hour up to the last garage, the last pit box, and then he can release that button, and then he goes onto track at full pace. The car sliding around a bit. Here is our new race leader then. It is Dario Franchitti now, who hasn't made his second stop, and surely you don't get much option here, Jeremy. You don't get much window. You can't go 3 or 4 laps more than the competitor because of the length of this track.
No, that's absolutely right. It doesn't really matter when they make their stop, because their window, they have made that extra stop in any case, so they're looking at 3-stop strategy in any case. So it doesn't really matter when they make their stop. It won't really make any difference to the fuel mixture they'll need to run. But I'm sure we will find Dario in this time around.
The only difference it may make is that Dario can put in a really quick lap here in terms of track position. If his team can get him out quickly, then of course he might come out ahead of Michael.
That's very true. Take advantage of the fresh tyres on this car, or the hot tyres, I should say, on this car. And if you can make a good clean stop and then get back out ahead. And it's going to be interesting to see. But here he is, Dario Franchitti, now through this final turn onto the front straight and pulls across and into the pit lane.
Yeah, so that last lap for Dario Franchitti, he pushed as hard as he could there to try and make sure that when he comes back out, he's got a chance of getting out ahead of Michael. We will try and keep an eye on the battle. De Ferran is in. Fernandez is also in. So Fernandez managed to go to this lap just that one extra lap to Michael Andretti. Tony Kanaan also in. Let's keep an eye on this pit stop. This is a crucial one for the Scotsman. The man who went out after taking pole position in the last race at Mid-Ohio. The clash with Brian Herter. Good clean stop, 12.8. Try and miss the tyres in the pit lane. Otherwise you pick up a penalty. And we watch out for Michael Andretti coming down the main straight. Now where is Michael? He's not in view as yet. But remember, of course, there he goes past us. There's Michael. You can just see him in the background. But remember, he's on a good warm set of tyres, but I have to say Dario's got out well ahead of Michael, and it's very unlikely that Michael's going to be able to repass him that quickly. So Franchitti looks to be in great shape here.
Yeah, and also ahead of them are JJ Leto and Bobby Rahal, who are running in tandem as they came past us here. They passed us in 9th and 10th places because everybody else ahead of them was into the pit lane, so that's going to be interesting to see that shuffles out. There is the car of Bobby Rahal. Behind him is Dario Franchitti, so that's how it's played out, and everybody still has one more pit stop to come.
Interesting situation here as Franchitti finds himself behind Rahal. Rahal is ahead of Franchitti in track position here because of the slightly different strategy that Rahal is on, but Bobby is still going to have to make another stop as well. We are on board with Richie Hearn at the moment. He lies down in 13th position, coming down to the turn 5 area. So he's in the Swift chassis, of course, with the Firestone tyres. Here's the another Swift chassis on the Goodyear tyres. Michael Andretti, having rejoined after his pit stop, and now finds himself behind Dario Franchitti and behind Bobby Rahal, who is up there. JJ Leto also up there on that different strategy. In fact, JJ was the only one who went a little bit further earlier, wasn't he?
Well, he actually came in with Bobby Rahal on lap 11, which is only a couple of laps after the other guys. So they're certainly going to have to make another stop pretty soon now. And I think unless there's any more cautions, they're not going to be able to really be in this fight till the end of the race. Because they, I'm pretty sure, are going to have to make 2 more pit stops. And that's going to kill their hopes of winning this race.
Yes, so it does look as though they're not going to feature. But at the moment, until they make their stops, it is Leto who leads from Rahal in 2nd, Franchitti in 3rd, then De Ferran in 4th. So De Ferran also got out ahead of Michael. Now there's an interesting situation.
Yeah, both of those cars, of course, made their pit stops 1 lap later. You were talking about that lap on hot tyres, and that's what got Franchitti ahead of these guys. So great work there by Team Cool Green. Great strategy.
Look at the lap time JJ Leto's just put in. That's an impressive performance. He's just done a 1 minute 43.7. The Finn, who's leading this race, and okay, he might be slightly out of sequence, but he's put in a lap time there that's worthy of any of the front runners we've seen so far today.
Certainly is a very fine effort by JJ Leto. He pulled away from Bobby Rahal on that lap by a good, by a little bit over half a second, but on board now with Jimmy Vasser, and looking back to the Budweiser Ralph's car. That's another Swift chassis, as we said a couple of minutes ago, of Richie Hearn, who's also running well in this race.
Yes, Richie Hearn still being mentioned in connection with the drive at Team Rahal. Look at this as he tries to close up to Jimmy Vasser. Good view of the downhill braking into turn 5. That's what makes these cars so hard to drive in low downforce trim. They've got very steep downhill braking to deal with, which tends to make the rears go very light, very easy to lock them up. Meanwhile, Maurizio Gugelmin is in the pits. He may have a problem. It's Leto, our race leader, from Rahal and Franchitti. Dario Franchitti is the race leader now for sure as Bobby Rahal is into the pit lane, and the all-important fuel goes aboard, the tyres are changed. It's a good stop for Rahal. There he is, just going out of the pits now, but that means that Franchitti is in front. Let's hear now from Scott Pruitt, who's down in the pit lane.
After motor problem sidelined him. You're going to be running with the Arciero Wells team starting next year. How difficult a decision for you to come to this at this point of the season?
Well, actually, you know, I'm not even thinking about that. You know, we got a race, you know, whole weekend, and they went, unfortunately, turned bad in the race, and they got hit at the start, and then, you know, kind of got things turned around because he broke the front wing, and unfortunately, the engine broke. So, you know, we got a lot of racing left this year, and we're, you know, working hard for the championship.
It breaks a great string of success, but while that is fact that he won't be with Patrick Racing next year, it opens up a seat for Patrick, and it also opens up a seat wondering what's going to happen to Robbie Gordon. Gordon is going to make a move in another direction for 1999. So let's continue with that theme.
Well, let's actually see there that Mauricio Gugelmin just came into the pits. He obviously is in trouble. They've been in and out of the pits several times now. We go on board with Gilles de Ferran now, who runs in second position effectively behind Dario Franchitti. It's being shown as third at the moment because of Bobby Rahal's pit stop. He'll drop down the order once they go across the line next time. So de Ferran is effectively some 2 seconds behind Franchitti in second position.
Yeah, he made up 3 or 4 tenths of a second lap on the previous lap. There is Dario Franchitti ahead of him now, going up underneath the bridge there, cresting the hill, and that's the gap. You can see it there back to Gilles de Ferran. It's not a whole heck of a lot, and Gilles de Ferran is looking very good. Needs another quick lap time there, takes off another couple of tenths or so, and he's inching that little bit closer to Dario Franchitti.
Yeah, this is proving to be an interesting battle as we're into the second third of this race. Very well, more than that, we're into very much into the second half of this race, and de Ferran beginning to try and close up that gap to Dario Franchitti. Both Honda-powered cars, of course. Gilles de Ferran hasn't won any races for quite a long time, hasn't won any races this year. He's been struggling with the Goodyear tyre, not terribly effective on most kinds of track this year. They've really had to give best to Firestone, but on this occasion it does look as though Goodyear have come up with an excellent tyre, not only for qualifying but in the race here as well. He seems to be able to push hard over a number of laps, and those last few lap times really quite impressive. So of course they're going down the back section of the track, down into turn number 8 at the moment. Let me tell you that Michael Andretti is still in third place. There you can see the laps led so far. Goodyear have the advantage. That's really courtesy of Michael Andretti in the first stint. Firestone are now beginning to catch up a bit with Dario Franchitti in front. Andretti is in third. He's not running the same sort of pace as these two. There we are with Michael now, and the gap between himself and Gilles de Ferran just over 2 seconds.
Yeah, and certainly Michael Andretti doesn't look nearly as strong as he did in the early stages of this race. Before he came in for his final pit stop, or the last pit stop I should say, he was lapping consistently in the mid to low 1 minute 43 range. At the moment he's unable to break out of the 44s, whereas the leaders are in the mid 43 second, 1 minute 43 second range. So that's kind of interesting, but there is still a long way to go. 19 laps to go around this 4-mile road course, and there's certainly plenty to play for. And there are the 3 leaders. You can see them all there. 1, 2, 3. Dario Franchitti into turn 1 there, and look at them just on the left there. There's a big gravel trap, and that's all new. A lot of improvements on this racetrack since last year. That runoff in turn 1 has been leveled, and a huge gravel trap put in there, which actually saved Gilles de Ferran yesterday when he spun off exactly that point in qualifying.
Just looking at the summary on the leader, started in 6th place. He's led just 5 of the 32 laps so far. He won't be too worried about that. The laps he wants to lead are the last few laps. Of course, still seeking that first victory in the Champ Car Series. His second season of racing. The switch of teams from Hogan last year to Barry Green's team for the 1998 season. The partnership with Paul Tracy, and it's certainly Tracy who seems to have suffered this year. He really hasn't got it together. Dario's been fast in virtually all of the qualifying sessions, particularly on any kind of road course or street circuit. He's been impressive on some of the ovals as well, but he hasn't quite strung it together in the race for the victory. He's had a couple of good results, Long Beach particularly, but Franchitti up front at the moment. You're looking a little further down the order here at Jimmy Vasser, Bobby Rahal and Richie Hearn. Now they're running down in 10th, 11th and 12th places, and Hearn there really is beginning to put the pressure on Bobby Rahal.
In the meantime, let me just tell you again that JJ Leto has just come into the pits. He was, of course, leading that race for one lap. He came in the pits, a lot of smoke from the back of JJ's car. There it is in the pit lane. Out come the fire extinguishers, off comes the steering wheel, and out momentarily will hop JJ Leto. A shame, but a good run by the Hogan Racing team. They've had a couple of good runs last weekend in Mid-Ohio. They were running well until he was assaulted by Alex Zanardi, and another pretty good run again here this weekend. Of course, he, like Tony Kanaan, never seen this racetrack before, and it certainly is a bit of an eye-opener here, but a good job by JJ Leto.
This track, one of the toughest there is on engines, there's no doubt about that. We've seen engine failures determine the outcome of the race in many occasions in the past. It's high speed, but they're braking from high speed down to slow corners. It's very easy to damage the engine on the down chase. They're all going to have to watch out for that. Franchitti leads after 34 of 50 laps have been completed. 2.4 seconds behind him last time across the start-finish line, Gilles de Ferran. Franchitti's pulled away a little bit in the last couple of laps. De Ferran not able to maintain that sort of pace. Michael Andretti is still in third, Fernandez fourth, and Alex Zanardi is in fifth position. Meanwhile, down in the pits, we have Alex Barron. Now remember, Alex Barron was the man who launched himself over the top of Brian Herter a little earlier on in this race. If you were with us, you'll have seen Brian Herter lost control of his car down at turn 5, and then all of a sudden he saw the car of Alex Barron approaching. Let's hear from Barron now.
What looked to be a very scary action. Unfortunately, everybody's walked away. This is Alex Barron. Let's talk about what sent you into Brian Herter.
Well, there's a lot of hard braking going down into the back straight down there, and I got in hard, and then there's a lot of dicing back and forth, and then one of the cars moved over to the right side, knocked me into the grass. I had to steer out in the grass, or else I would have hooked into him, and then once you're in the grass, you're going straight, and then unfortunately Brian was sitting there, and climbed up on top of him. It was just real fortunate that he's okay, and I'm okay. And
you were talking about what went through your mind as you were literally just hitting him there.
Yeah, it's like slow motion when you're in the car. When you're in the grass like that, you're going pretty fast, but at the same time, it's slow motion. So just real fortunate nobody got hurt.
Fortunate that he's okay, and also the corner worker's okay. All right, Alex Barron, unfortunately, out of the race in a very spectacular way.
Interesting to me, the fact that he didn't
dumping on his teammate, but you know, he's trying to make a move in. It's awfully tough to make a move on the outside line into turn 5.
Yes, that's right. Alex Barron has impressed me. We're on board, by the way, at the moment with Alex Zanardi. He lies in 5th position.
Actually,
so
4th place now, because
yes.
I think Adrian Fernandez must have gone off the road. He lost about 8 seconds on the last time around. We heard a report he might have gone off the road and back on again in turn 3, and he'd lost just over 8 seconds on that last lap. So an off and on for Adrian Fernandez, but he didn't come into the pit, so with a bit of luck the car will be okay.
And look at the time that Zanardi did on the last lap. It was a 1:42.2, and that's certainly one of the fastest laps of the race so far. So Zanardi very much on the pace now after his early race problems. Taking a look at Bobby Rahal at the moment, he lies down in 11th position. We thought that he was really going to feature in this race. He had the lead briefly, but their strategy was to bring him in and really not take advantage of the fact that they hadn't come in on the first yellow, and he's going to have to make another stop, as is everybody else up there. So it really doesn't look that promising for Bobby Rahal, the man who finished in 3rd place last time out in Mid-Ohio. Richie Hearn, you ride on board with him as he chases after Rahal, and Richie Hearn waiting to see what Budweiser will say to him at the end of this week, and then decide whether he stays with Della Penna's team or perhaps he join up with Team Rahal. There he is, following his potential boss for next year.
That's true. Certainly the rumours have linked those two together. And right behind these two, there is the yellow Lola again of Art Maher. I'm going to give another call to Art Maher as Richie Hearn thinks about looking to move. And Art Maher really is doing a nice job. He's running in 13th place with that Lola chassis and turning some very competitive lap times.
Yes, we ride back on board now with De Ferran. He lies in 2nd, 2.3 seconds behind Dario Franchitti. Michael Andretti is just over a second behind De Ferran, and we are expecting these leaders to be coming into the pits over the next lap or so. So De Ferran's crew is over the pit wall. Whether that's a little bit of a dummy to convince the others that they will make a stop here, we'll have to wait and see, but it's got to be around this lap or the next lap to make their stops.
Well, they could, any time they can make their stop now, they can certainly get to the finish with no problems. But they only came in on lap 27 last time around. We've only done 10 laps since then, Ben. So the window for them really is over the next 2 or 3 laps. And and I'd be surprised if they didn't stay out another couple of laps and just equalise those stints. Well, that shows you I'm right and I'm wrong, because Dario Franchitti comes fastest on the racetrack, and into the pit lane instead comes Gilles de Ferran.
Yeah, let's see if anyone else comes in. I think he's the only one, Jeremy. He's the only one who's decided to come in this early in the window. So de Ferran comes into the pits, obviously going for the final set of Goodyear tyres, refuel the car, and then go into the attack once again. Interesting, he obviously decided he wants to be out there and putting in quick laps. He wasn't getting held up, I wouldn't say, at any point there. He wasn't quite able to match Franchitti's pace.
No, and I wonder, maybe that set of tyres just wasn't quite in balance for Gilles de Ferran. Maybe he didn't feel that they were quite as good as the previous set, so if he comes in now, he's certainly got plenty of fuel to get to the finish without having to come in again, and he can go hard now, and if this set of tyres just gives him a better balance to that car, as around the outside of him goes Marc Blundell, as Gilles de Ferran gets up to speed. Smart move, giving him room, no point in driving him off the racetrack, and de Ferran will come back out onto the track in, I would make that 9th position.
So Marc Blundell in that 9th place, then Gilles de Ferran into 10th place. Jimmy Vasser behind them now will be in 11th position, but it's still Dario Franchitti, our race leader, after 37 laps have been completed. His advantage over Michael Andretti last time round, some 4.1 seconds, and now de Ferran will hope that this last set of tyres is giving him exactly what he needs to be able to push hard in the closing stages.
Could be they made maybe a tyre pressure adjustment to try and get the best out of these tyres for this final, 12 laps he'll have to go next time around, so 13 laps would have to be completed now by Gilles de Ferran as he comes under pressure from Jimmy Vasser. Jimmy Vasser, of course, his tyres are well up to temperature, and gives him gain just a little bit through the beginning of that corner, but onto the power early there is Gilles de Ferran, gets a good round to the back straight, and he's not going to be under pressure, I think, this time around at least, from Jimmy Vasser.
So there the battle continues between those two. Meanwhile, Franchitti still putting in some good lap times. He did a 52.6. Look at Jimmy Vasser. He does have a little think about it. De Ferran sensibly just sort of holds middle ground. He's entitled to do that. And Jimmy Vasser wasn't able to take advantage of it. He wasn't going to take a huge gamble and really squeeze his way past. And now that De Ferran has got those tyres up to temperature, he should be okay over the remainder of this first lap out of the pits. Gets on the power early out of turn 14. That's a potential passing opportunity to get the good exit there, but it looks to me as though de Ferran had as good as exit as he needs to stay in front all the way up to turn number 1.
Yeah, and his tyres should be up to speed now, up to temperature properly, and he should be able to run pretty fast towards the end of this race. And we'll see what he can do. We can see if he can make up for this lost ground. He was not making an impression at all on Dario Franchitti. We're on board again now with Bobby Rahal as he goes down the hill here and into turn 3, and he's got 2 cars right behind him. He has Richie Hearn and Arndt Meyer right behind him, and actually Max Papis too is closing on the back of those 3 cars as well, but back on board with a 2nd place car of Michael Andretti, and you can't see Dario Franchitti's last lap around Dario Franchitti, 1 minute 42.6. I reckon that's probably about the quickest lap of the race, and Dario really turning up the wick.
Yes, that's right. It's opened his advantage up to 5.4 seconds as they approach the next round of pit stops. He wants as big an advantage as possible. He hopes the team can then take that advantage and build on it as well and beat the Newman Haas crew. But it's critical phase of the race here to put in some fast laps. Franchitti goes past us again. Again, neither of these 2 leaders decides to come into the pits just yet. Zanardi is now in 3rd position though, and let's just check the gap back to Alex Zanardi. Well, he's about 4 seconds behind Michael Andretti. Zanardi's still in the hunt. You better not count him out just yet, as we see the leaders have gone through in some very fast times once again for these 2.
Quicker again that time from Dario Franchitti, and Michael Andretti's pushing pretty hard at 43.9, but he lost more than a second that time to Dario Franchitti, and now back into the 3rd place car of Alex Zanardi. He's, as you say, just around about 4 seconds or so behind Michael Andretti. Downhill, you just see Michael Andretti turning into turn 5. Here comes now Alex Zanardi. That's the slowest point on the racetrack, around about 55, 60 miles an hour. Uphill, up 1 gear, down again into 2nd gear for turn 6 at the top of the hill. And now for this wonderful section of track here, Hurry Downs it's called. Great section of track, that very quick right-hand corner, and plunging downhill once again. This part of the racetrack is around about 150 feet in elevation lower than the highest point of the racetrack where we are up by start-finish line.
Yeah, it's a huge change of elevation around this track. The hill's very much steeper when you have to climb up them, let me tell you, than when you watch it on the television set. Oh, look at Zanardi. He so nearly lost it there, and that was just a mistake, a lack of concentration, whatever. He ran wide out of the carousel and he saved it, but that just shows you he is working hard to close up that gap Michael Andretti. At the moment, though, last time round it was about 4 seconds. Comes up to complete the lap as meanwhile Dario Franchitti crosses the line to complete lap number 40. There are still now just 10 laps to go, and surely he's going to be making a pit stop fairly soon. Another very quick time. Michael Andretti is taking this opportunity to come into the pits. Now then, also Alex Zanardi is in behind him, so Zanardi and Andretti, their pit crews, will do battle in the pit lane. Zanardi has often gained places in the pits courtesy of his pit crew, and he did that last year here as well. He got past the Pac West car of Mark Blundell in the pits last year. I wonder if it's going to happen here. I shouldn't think so. Michael had a great advantage, and it's a good stop.
Good stop. A lot of wheel spin there for Michael Andretti as he goes away, and there you can see in the corner of the screen, out comes Alex Zanardi. He's still behind him. He might have made up a little bit of ground, but there comes Mark Blundell on the outside. He will get himself in between those two cars of Michael Andretti and Alex Zanardi. And now will Blundell close there? He's closing right up on Michael Andretti. Still, of course, cold tyres, no tyre warmers like they're allowed in Formula One. They use stone cold fresh tyres when they put them on these cars in the pit stops. And we're back on board with Gilles de Ferran.
So there it is. Blundell does get past Michael Andretti. We see the move completed, and of course Mark is running a lighter fuel load. Michael's got a whole load of fuel, not a full tank, because they've only had to put enough fuel in to last the last 10 laps as opposed to 16, 17 laps, which is what a full tank will do. So they're not quite as heavy as they might be, but nonetheless Mark is running very light now. He's due into the pits fairly soon. Blundell running in 8th position at the moment. De Ferran being shown as 9th still, but remember, he's already made his pit stop, and things will begin to sort themselves out over the next lap or so as one or two make their stops. Don't discount Adrian Fernandez, Tony Kanaan, they're both running up in the top 5 at the moment as well. So we really have got a good race on our hands here. Everybody's going to be able to turn up the wick. There's no worries about fuel consumption, and they'll just be able to go for it now.
Absolutely right. And Dario Franchitti, fastest lap after fastest lap. He really is churning up the wick here. It's a tremendous drive by Dario Franchitti. He had to pass a slower car on the last lap round. There is Dario Franchitti. Nobody behind him. He passed the slower car of Michel Jourdain Jr., put him 1 lap down, but he really is driving an absolutely brilliant race. He lost a second on that last lap, but he still pulled away by a second more over the next cars behind him. So a great drive by Dario Franchitti. Could this be his first win?
Oh, do we dare say it, Jeremy? He's come so close. Toronto earlier on this season, he had it all in his pocket just to take that first win, but it all went wrong when he lost it. He had a brake problem, a long brake pedal that meant that as he went for the brakes, it hit the throttle as well, and he spun at the first corner, and that was the end of his chance on that occasion. He blew it last week as well in an incident with Brian Herter, but this time he has got a very real chance. But let's just wait and see. Don't forget, reliability is a huge factor here, and a couple of years ago Alonso Jr. led on the last lap. He was leading, and it was only at the corner that Dario's at now that his engine blew, and that gave the win to Michael Andretti. So we really can't call this one yet.
You're absolutely right. There's still it'll be 8 laps to go when he completes this lap. This is lap 42. 4 miles a lap, of course, so a long, long way around this wonderful road course here in the rolling hills of Kettle Moraine country. And Dario Franchitti is in the pit lane, Ben.
Yes, here he comes. A vital pit stop then for Team Green. They've had a few problems in the pits, so remember, this team expanded from a 1-car operation to 2 cars this year. Had to get new personnel in. They've really taken a little bit of time to gel, but now's their opportunity to show just how good they can be. They were good in Toronto. They did a fantastic job on his pit stops there. Now the pressure's on. They have the race lead. Are they going to be able to maintain it once this pit stop's completed? It's into gear. He spins the wheel, gets it away cleanly. They're happy with it, but where's he going to be in terms of track position as he rejoins the circuit? We're looking out the window to see where Michael Andretti may be. He's a long way back, still hasn't come across the line as Dario goes into turn number 1. Christian Fittipaldi in.
Yeah, here is Michael Andretti's teammate Christian Fittipaldi into the pit lane, and finally now past us comes the car, the second place car of Michael Andretti. Right behind him is Alex Zanardi, and Gilles de Ferran is back in the 4th place.
Well, there we go. Christian gets out. That's interesting. De Ferran obviously losing out a little bit on the pit stops. Adrian comes back out. Christian Fittipaldi behind him, and now we begin to see a sort through. Dario Franchitti is in great shape here. Now he's got to hold it together in this last stint. We have 8 laps to go still, and there you ride on board with Michael Andretti. He is in 2nd second position after the pit stops have all settled themselves down. Alex Zanardi's still in the fight. Gilles de Ferran's up there as well. You have to stay with us and enjoy the climax to Road America. The Ferran has just pulled off right beside us here on the main start-finish straight. It's an engine that has let go, a little bit like in Michigan where he was so well up with the leaders just a few races ago. The engine blew up and now it's done it again, and poor old Gilles de Ferran. The luck just is not riding with him this year.
No, that's a great shame. He's driven a great race here. He wasn't quite up to speed perhaps with those other guys, but certainly a good strong finish was on the cards.
Gilles de Ferran climbs out of his car in disgust. The engine having expired, the Honda motor has given up with just 7 laps to go here at Road America. Dario Franchitti is race leader, and let me tell you, he has an 11.6 second lead. Right behind Michael Andretti is Alex Zanardi, and that is a big battle for second place. De Ferran is out of it, and that means that everybody else behind moves up a slot. But let's just focus for a moment on Gilles de Ferran. He can't believe his bad luck, just as in Michigan a few weeks ago, an engine letting go when he was in a great point-scoring opportunity.
Yeah, certainly at the very least a top 3 or 4 finish here on the cards for Gilles de Ferran, not to be. And as you say, Michigan, he was running a fabulous straight ahead today. He paced himself awfully well. The last 50 miles or so, he was poised to run for that checkered flag, and he wasn't able to do it. The engine expired on there as well. But there is Dario Franchitti, and we're back on board now again with the third place car of Alex Zanardi, and right ahead of him is Michael Andretti. This is a battle for second place.
Yes, this is the closest battle at the moment. Let me tell you, there's a huge gap back from Alex Zanardi to Christian Fittipaldi, who lies in 4th position. Good result, or good potential result for Fittipaldi, and indeed for Newman, Haas and Swift to have both cars going well. 5th position now is Tony Kanaan. Great effort from him. 6th place is Bobby Rahal. 7th is Paul Tracy. 8th position, having made an extra stop, and we're not quite sure what that was about, but Adrian Fernandez did make an extra stop.
Yeah, I think that was for exceeding the speed limit in pit lane, and these cars have a speed limiter button, but they only work if the driver remembers to press that button, and presumably Adrian Fernandez forgot to do so and was caught speeding in the pit lane. That is an automatic drive-through penalty, and that has dropped him out of contention, possibly for a podium finish.
9th place behind Fernandez is Mark Blundell. Then it's Jimmy Vasser in 10th, and Jimmy, we saw a moment ago having a spin. He got away with it. He has rejoined the track, but that's dropped him down. And then look who's next. The man you've been mentioning today, Jeremy, Arndt Meyer.
Yeah, I'm very impressed. He's only a couple of seconds behind Jimmy Vasser, the 1996 PPG Cup champion, and he's certainly been running a very fine race. This would be his best finish, his best previously. He's had a couple of 12ths, but 11th would be even better, and there's still a good way to go. Who knows, perhaps he can get himself in the top 10.
That would be quite something. The final point at the moment is heading towards Robbie Gordon, who's ahead of teammate Max Papis, and those two enjoying their own battle. Richie Hearn's back to 14th now, Michel Jourdain in 15th, and of course Gilles de Ferran out of it. He's being shown as next up on the list, but out of the race, unfortunately, now, as we go back to this battle for second position. Michael Andretti in second at the moment, Alex Zanardi in third. Now, Michael will no doubt be thinking back to 1996, when it looked as though he was going to finish in second, only for little Al to blow up on the last lap. So he won't give up trying, and still hoping for another victory here at Road America, a track that's always really been very kind to him, and he's had a great run of success here, a 3 times winner, as is his father, and as is in fact Emerson Fittipaldi. Those 3 drivers have all taken 3 victories on this 4-mile track. Michael would love to go one ahead though and take win number 4 here today.
That's right, he would indeed. And yeah, before this weekend, this is one of the very few tracks on which he's raced regularly in this country that he hadn't scored a pole position. So he achieved that yesterday, and he's looking for another win here. I don't know, he's got a pretty tall order. I think he's going to have to rely on some problems for Dario Franchitti. But at this stage, certainly, Michael Andretti running along there in second place, and Alex Zanardi, I would imagine, after all the dramas he's had in the early stages of this race, he'll probably be pretty happy to settle for third place.
Yes, that's right. Important points, and it would give Alex a chance to open up the points advantage. Oh, and Tony's off. Tony Kanaan, who's been running so well, he's in 5th position. Now, has he got back on without losing any places? He was only a fraction ahead of Rahal. He must have lost positions to Bobby Rahal, but he may have got back on ahead of Paul Tracy. We'll have to see when we get a wider shot, or as he comes past our commentary position. Poor old Tony, but he has recovered it. That's the thing.
It is indeed. He lost there at turn 8 at the bottom of the hill, and there was a glimpse of the Team Cruel green car of Paul Tracy behind Tony Kanaan there, but to make sure there's no damage as well to that LCI Reynard Honda.
Look at this, Zanardi certainly not giving up on the chase of Michael Andretti. Different tyres they're using, of course. The Goodyear has been in great shape here this weekend, but the Firestone's on Zanardi's car. Julian Robertson, race engineer for Jimmy Vasser, was telling me earlier that Alex locks up. Oh, he made a mistake. He got too close to the back of Michael there, and he so nearly got it all wrong again. Michael perhaps just braking a little earlier than Alex expected, and he locks up, and he saved it as well. So still we're seeing plenty of drama.
Yeah, these guys are fighting pretty hard. There's a lot at stake here, and I'm surprised. I'd have thought Alex Zanardi would have been throttling back a little bit, but it doesn't seem so. I got wrong on that one yet again. But here he is through the carousel. You can just listen to the throttle trace there. On the throttle there, halfway through the big lift, halfway around the corner. The qualifying, they've been much more committed, let's say, through that corner. And the kink just about flat, just in the throttle pads ever so slightly up into top gear on the exit of the kink there. Interesting, in qualifying in that lap we saw before the top of the show, we saw Michael Andretti changing to 6th gear before the kink.
Yeah, that's the difference on a light fuel load and fresh tyres, of course. These tyres will be a little bit more worn now. Still some 4 laps to go here as Zanardi continues to pressure, but having dropped back a bit from Andretti. Across the line they go, past our commentary position in the revised media centre, part of the $1.7 million refurbishment program that's taken place here over the last 12 months. And here's another example, big gravel trap on the outside on that last corner. We saw Altmaier bounce across that part of the track last year, and this year a lot of changes to improve the safety aspects of this track. Christian Fittipaldi running in 4th position at the moment. 2 Newman Haas cars up there in the top 4, but Michael Andretti running in 2nd position at the moment and trying to stay in that position ahead of Alex Zanardi. Last time around, Zanardi made a little mistake down at turn 5 there. This time he seems to get through a little more cleanly. Let me tell you, Dario Franchitti's lead though, we haven't seen a great deal of him in the last couple of laps, but it's stayed fairly constant. He's controlling it now. I don't think he's pushing that hard. It's just over 9 seconds. It was a little over 10 seconds, but I don't think he's going to be too worried about 1 second in a 10-second lead being taken away.
No, I think you're right, and we're back on board with Christian Fittipaldi. He's, well, over 20 seconds behind the 3rd place car of Alex Zanardi, and Fittipaldi himself a long way clear now of Tony Kanaan, who's actually moved back into 5th place despite that error, because Bobby Rahal has just come in last time around to make his final pit stop.
So Rahal having dropped back down the order again with that stop, that's put him down to 9th position. And as you say, Kanaan back up to 5th. That's brought Tracy up to 6th place. And well, we said it's looking good for Newman Haas. It's looking good for Team Green as well, isn't it? If Franchitti can hold on to this lead position at the moment, and Paul Tracy a potential 6th place finish, well, that really would be a tremendous result for the team, which has seen a number of up and downs already this year, but still looking for their first win in their current form. Of course, Barry Green has seen success, and interestingly enough, Jeremy, Jacques Villeneuve won this race, and it was his first race victory some years ago, wasn't it?
As it was indeed, and went on to win the championship the following year. That was, of course, in his rookie season. But let's get down to the pit lane there and have a word with Kim Green, general manager.
Down here, everybody watching the monitors, very antsy. Kim Green, it's a stupid question sometimes, but this time it really applies. What's going through your mind right now?
Well, you know, obviously we've been in this position a couple of times this year already, so, you know, we'd like to get this one over and done with. Dario's driven a fantastic race. The crew's done fabulous pit stops. We've just got 2 more laps to go, or 1.5 more laps to go, and we can, you know, celebrate, I think, what we richly deserve, a win.
And he hasn't said much on the radio, so you really don't know what's going through that young Scott's mind.
He's a non-talker on the radio, likes to concentrate on what he's doing, and hopefully we can finish the job off in the next lap or so.
I guarantee you there's a lot of fingers, a lot of toes, everything is crossed in the Team Cool pit.
Well, fabulous performance it would be, but he's still got a lap and a bit to do, and that's about 5 or 6 miles still to complete here for Dario Franchitti. Leader by 7.2 seconds. The gap's come down a little bit more, but I'm not going to get too worried about that at this stage.
No, he came down by 2 seconds the last lap around, but I think, as you say, nothing to be too concerned about. Dario has just been making sure that he doesn't make any mistakes. He has a lot of experience as a racing driver. He knows how to pace himself and pace the car. He'll look after the tires, look after the engine. There's no need to push it. He can really just put on cruise mode. He takes the white flag there from Jim Swintel over the top of the hill there. There comes Michael Andretti, and behind him Alex Zanardi, second and third.
The last lap then at Road America, the Texaco Avelina 200, round 14 of the championship, and is it finally going to be Dario Franchitti's first win in the series? There's the battle for second place, which continues, but surely Zanardi not close enough. Last lap, both of them going very quickly. A 42.0 for Andretti and a 41.8 for Alex Zanardi. I think part of the reason that the gap to Franchitti is closing is those two are having such a battle. They're pushing so hard for the second position that they are closing that gap up a little bit to Dario Franchitti. Oh, Michael off, and a tyre failure, we're being told. We heard it on the radio, and we heard it. It's a tyre failure, and that's taken Michael out. And how many times have we seen here things go wrong on the last lap? Michael is out of second position. It puts Zanardi up into second place. Fittipaldi up into third. Dario Franchitti will be unaware of all this, and he won't be worried in the least about it. He's just got to get through the last few corners. Here he comes down the backstretch, over 200 miles an hour towards Canada Corner. This is where Alonso Jr. blew up a few years ago. Let's hope he gets through here cleanly.
This, of course, the Honda engine there for Dario Franchitti, and Michael Andretti. Let's just go back to him very briefly. He had a tyre failure also in testing here a couple of weeks ago, but just one corner to go for Dario Franchitti.
Here comes Franchitti. It's going to be his first victory in his second season of Champ Car Racing. His first international win since winning with Mercedes in the International Touring Car Championship in '96. Franchitti wins it. Brilliant performance. Well done to Franchitti. Big cheers to Scotland, because Franchitti has taken his first win in the series. Mark Blundell won races last year. Now Franchitti wins for Scotland, and he will have so much support throughout the motor racing community, not only in the United States but also in the United Kingdom, where he is such a popular driver. Michael Andretti, though, how can you believe the luck he's suffered this year? Second place was there. He'd driven superbly here this afternoon. He is angry, but Alex Zanardi congratulates Franchitti on a superb win here today. Well, nice to see that Zanardi congratulating Franchitti as they slow down. But look at this replay, Jeremy. Here's what happened to Michael Andretti. A tyre failure is what happened, apparently. There it went.
The rear tyre, I think, failed, and Michael Andretti on the brakes there. Turn 5 is one of the fastest parts of the racecourse, and they're into the tyre. But that's the same place that Brian Herder and Alex Barron went off earlier on. High speed, you're coming down that hill at well over 200 miles an hour. Terrifying moment that must be for Michael Andretti. The rear tyre lets go. Absolutely nothing you can do.
Well, it's just a shock. Good for Michael. He's out of the car. He's safe. Remember what happened to him last week, that huge accident at Mid-Ohio. He'd come back brilliantly here to take pole position, to be front runner, leader of the first part of the race. Okay, they couldn't match Franchitti on the day. Franchitti was just superb today. They looked set for second. But, of course, he was under a lot of pressure from Zanardi. The lap times they were doing in those last few laps, the two of them were pushing each other so hard, and it just couldn't quite last the distance.
No, that's right, but it only had to do 10 laps. That's the amazing thing. He'd made his final pit stop on lap 40. 10 laps is all he needed to do. A full stint, and look at the damage there to the left rear tyre of Michael Andretti. The damage to the right side, well, that's from hitting the wall, but that left rear tyre in shreds, and that is what caused the problem for Michael Andretti. And 10 laps, you've got to be surprised at that. That's pretty amazing. I know he did have a problem here in testing. Look again, look at him fighting the wheel there on the brakes. He's just trying to slow that car down. The rear wheels, of course, having no real contact with the road, and nothing he can do there. Just hope again for the second running he doesn't hit anything too hard.
Yeah, well, and the other Franchitti celebrating, which is fabulous to see. Great stuff for him and for Team Green as well. And let's just talk about that for a moment, because they've been waiting such a long time for this, haven't they?
And as Kim Green said, they've come so close on so many times. Finally, Dario Franchitti, a winner.
Franchitti on his slow-down lap then, really just can't believe it, pumping the air and clenching his fist with his first win in the series. He's come close on a number of occasions. Today he did not put a wheel wrong. He's made a couple of mistakes, but this time no mistake. They're the result. Franchitti from Zanardi, Fittipaldi in a good third. Look at Kanaan in fourth, great performance. Fernandez fifth, Paul Tracy for Team Green also. He in sixth position, seventh for Blundell, good effort for him. Rahal eighth, Vassar ninth, then Meyer 10th. He did get in the top 10, great effort for him. Max Papis in 11th, he got past Robbie Gordon towards the end, and 12th place for Gordon. The two Argero Wells cars both in the points, and Andretti out. Richie Hearn did finish the race. Michel Jourdain also finished the race, but then we're into the list pretty much of non-finishers in this event.
Absolutely right, and look at Dario Franchitti hanging out of the car there. I can't imagine his father George comes to all these races. He pretty much lives over here these days. Forget about Scotland. He loves going back to Scotland, of course, but I tell you what, there's going to be a few beers drunk tonight in Siebken's Bar in Elkhart Lake Resort.
Well, as Dario makes his way around, there he is giving a big wave to everybody. This is one more replay of Michael Andretti's tyre failure. The left rear it was that failed, and then he just has to lock everything up and hope that he doesn't hit anything too hard.
Yeah, and the barriers there doing their job and keeping the car onto the racetrack and into the tyres there. There's 3 or 4 barrier layers of tyres there to go through at the end of that straight. The safety margins here pretty well laid out on this racetrack, but what a heartbreak for Michael Andretti. Driven once again a great race, and once again totally out of his control. He really didn't deserve that, but a man who did deserve today is Dario Franchitti, and boy, he's done a good job this season. He comes so close, so many occasions. Finally, he pulls the car into victory lane.
Yeah, fantastic. Well done to Franchitti, and well done to Team Green. Let's go down to the pits, and hopefully we're going to hear an interview. Well, it'll take a few moments because they haven't got him right in there yet. So let's just watch the pictures of Franchitti and hear from him as soon as he gets out of the car.
The sense of relief that he must be feeling at this moment as he slowly brings himself up out of the cockpit, and we'll get a chance to talk to him. On the side pod, and he salutes the crew. Yes, indeed, they love this moment, and why not? What a terrific job all day long in such an intriguing event. Dario, come down. Kim Green and everybody with the team coming over to hugs. This may take a while before we get a chance to hear from him. Barry on the other side of the car. And there's Barry Green with a thumbs up and a handshake. And look at that smile. It tells you so much.